Great. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this month's edition of the Talking Tim webinar series. My name is Kyla Elzinga, and I'll help facilitate today's webinar. This webinar is sponsored by the Federal Highway Administration and hosted by the National Operations Center of Excellence, also known as NOCO. As a quick reminder, NOCO offers a variety of resources to support the transportation systems management and operations community. You can go to NOCO's website at transportationops.org to browse through links for TISMO resources and news. Previous webinar recordings and case studies can also be accessed from the NOCO resources pages. A few logistics for today's webinar. All the attendees are in listen-only mode by default, but we encourage you to stay engaged by using the chat box to identify your name, title, and the agency you represent. We will have a Q&A session at the end of each presentation segment, so if you have any questions, we encourage you to enter them in the Q&A area as they come to mind at any time. We are recording this webinar, and the recording and slide deck will be available on NOCO's website within a few days. Thank you again for attending today, and now I'll hand it off to our moderator, Jim Ostrich with the Federal Highway Administration, Office of Operations, to get us started. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyla, and thank you, as always, to the National Operations Center of Excellence. You guys always do a great job, and I suggest and echo your comment about anyone that has not visited the NOCO for various transportation-related and certainly TIM resources. Please do so. On behalf of the U.S. Department of Transportation, the Federal Highway Administration, Office of Operations, TIM program, my name is Jim Ostrich, and I'm delighted that we have right now 128 attendees from across our great nation attending today's webinar. It is an very action-packed and very information-packed webinar today. This disclaimer is standard procedure as part of all our webinars, because we do sometimes share trademark and manufacturer information, but as a federal government entity, we do not endorse any of those. We simply set out to share the information. Next slide. So, and one thing I want to share too real quick before I get into this slide, and I'll accelerate here. More important that you listen to our presenters today. There may be some technical issues because of the volume. We have 6 phenomenal presentations, so we apologize in advance if we have any technical glitches, but maybe, Lord willing, we won't have any at all. So today's webinar is a third in a series, third part in a series of 3 webinars that we presented the 6 technologies that you see here for saving lives. They were part of the EDC 7 Everyday Counts Next Generation TIM project that ended this year in April officially, but we're continuing to work with the 46 state DOTs and stakeholders that signed up for EDC 7. But in particular today, we're going to be focused on smart emergency vehicle lighting and unmanned aircraft systems, UAS or UAVs as they're also known. So next slide. Here you can see the schedule. I'm going to go over a few updates here very quickly, and then I'll begin to introduce each one of the presenters, and you can see there. One piece, no, thanks, Vishali. One piece that we always cover, the sad piece of this presentation and our world in traffic incident management, which is line of duty deaths, specifically responder line of duty deaths, LODDs as they're known. You can see that number there to the right and the breakdown in red above. The only thing I can say is, beside how tragic and sad this is, for sure, it appears that we're tracking below where we were this time last year. So with what, 4 months left approximately in the year, hopefully we'll come in well below 46. So thank you for everything you do. So incredible. I am so delighted to finally see, and I'm sure you are too, and you all are responsible for this. Huge congratulations and seriously, many thanks to all of you, because here we are. You can see when we started, June of 2012, and year to date now, we have trained over 800,000 responders across all 50 states, DC, and Puerto Rico. It's a major, major milestone, major accomplishment, and all of you should be proud and pat yourselves on the back and be happy that you're still pushing the training, and it's a big part of line of duty deaths. Obviously, safety on our nation's roadways overall, and also obviously congestion mitigation, reducing secondary crashes, and just fatalities and injuries overall. So thank you once again to everyone. Next slide. So here is the bar chart showing the progress by discipline. And we are definitely headed to training well over 1 million responders, as most of you know, I'm sure. But we need to continue to push, as I said, the National Traffic Incident Management Training, whether it's in person, ideally, or it's web-based through our partners over at respondersafety.com, the Responder Safety Learning Network that has the TIM certificate online, as well as Federal Highways Training Arm, the National Highway Institute, the web-based training there. Both of them are equivalent, and both of them are approximately 4 hours in duration. So next slide. This is the national progress map, or what we call the goal map for the nation. And take a second there. If you don't receive the report directly, you can see what the key to the right demonstrates, the number of states that are above 75% or between the ranges that you see there. So there's still 2 or 3 states, 4 states that are lagging behind. And I, for one, am going to make it an effort to help those states that are lagging behind in any way I can, and with help from a lot of you. So thank you very much. The training website that we've now demonstrated the past 2 webinars, I wanted to include it because it's really cool now that you can log on, even if you're not a train-the-trainer graduate, you can get on regardless and see your progress as state in real time. It's an interactive map, the bottom slide there, and again, you can view your statistics for your respective state. So wanted to share this again. If you have any questions, next slide. Yeah, thanks, Vishali. Any questions regarding any of this, please feel free to email me. I'd be delighted to share more information or help you out in any way I can. Big deal on the horizon. I think we're 11 weeks out. I'm taking a guess there with the calendar from Crash Responder Safety Week, CRSW. Take advantage of the the QR code up on the upper right-hand side to become an ally in action. Not sure how many we have at this point, but it's important that your agency join us and become an ally in action. You can see the next planning, the planning webinars that we held in July, August 13th as well. Next slide. And very important, the 2025 theme for Crash Responder Safety Week. Safety starts with you. Slow down and move over. Next slide. Here are the upcoming webinars of importance, hopefully to all of you. Planned special events, Spotlight, September 4th. The CRSW All States Planning Call, the next one coming up here on the 10th of September. I encourage you and my colleague Sharon Cuevas, who is an ally now for, in the TIM program office with me, and of course our team leader, Dave Johnson. Sharon wants to make sure that if you haven't participated in your state self-assessment, to take advantage of this webinar and get some training, ask questions, whatever the case may be. And then next month's Talking Tim webinar on the 24th will feature wrong way driving programs in the state of Texas. And we think we're going to have another one, pretty sure, about fire response in tunnels, which we've not had a presentation on in the past. So please take advantage of all of these. And with that, I would like to introduce Jonathan Meeks with the Commonwealth of Virginia Department of Transportation. He's the Safety Service Patrol Strategic Initiatives Coordinator. In this role, he monitors SSP contracts and champions strategic initiatives such as VDOT's TRIP, Towing Recovery Incentive Program, for those of you who don't know what TRIP means, and the state Superloads programs. He brings over 20 years of public safety and incident management expertise with a strong background in facility, security, patrol operations, and program oversight. Welcome, Jonathan.
Thank you, Jim. All right, today I'm going to talk to you about Virginia's smart emergency vehicle lighting with our incident management vehicle fleet, and I'm going to touch a little bit on the SSP program as part of that. All right, so SSP program and incident management program as a whole gives you an overview of some status, some legislative changes, the agency's planning and development of the informational instructional memorandums and their documents, and the partnerships through this whole process so far, and the red secondary lights development. Next slide, please. Here's a quick overview, just to throw it out there. You can see on the left from 1960s, the SSP program, and then on the right, the picture of the SSP program as of now. Next slide, please. The SSP program covers 1,062 one-way post miles with 68 roving posts, 20 posted or 24 hours a day across 3 of the districts. And you can see got 60 of them that are hitting at the main peak hours of operations. Next slide. Here's just a quick overview of our SSP incidents and assists from 2024 to 2025. And I've broken that out based on traffic control and the crashes with lane blockages so far. SSPs do all this data, plus the incident management coordinator statewide they play a big part in all of this as well, and more at the rural road levels. All right, thank you. Next slide, please. All right, back in 2022, the legislation had been updated and amended to include the Department of Transportation's Safety Service Patrol and Incident Management Coordinators, which would allow their vehicles to be equipped with alternating blinking and flashing red and white secondary warning lights. And they went into specifics on this where the vehicles had to be, where the lighting had to be installed in the vehicles, and an approval process that was provided by the Superintendent of State Police. Okay. So part of that was also a EVOC course. It had to do with how the legislation stated, and we had to develop this course within what we had done. Excuse me, guys. We reduced the course down to 4 hours, 2 hours of classroom, 2 hours of practical instruction, and the certifications for each of those is about 24 months, and then every 24 months they have to take the 2-hour recertification course to be recertified for the course itself. Next slide, please. So part of this development, VDOT partnered with our contract partner AECOM to develop a proof of concept, and which was demonstrated to VDOT and to state police in an effort to ensure compliance and to find where we can put these lights within the current platforms that we currently have. Next slide, please. What I have here is a task example of everything that we've had to work through with the different areas of operations within the state agency and with state police, Virginia Department of Fire programs. This is all the stuff we've had to do just in case some of the other states out there are looking to go in this direction. And then lastly, the part of that was to include finding the funding to upfit the vehicles. We also had to start working on our instructional and informational memorandums to either develop one completely, which one of them was the schematics on how they look so we can get stuff uniform statewide. And the other here is the traffic incident management response, which we had to update as well. Next slide, please. Upon working with state police on this process on light placement, we were able to develop the locations, and they were able to provide a bulletin for the state inspection stations statewide that would allow these vehicles to pass inspection with these lighting systems in place, whether they're active or non-active. So far, statewide, we have 188 SSP vehicles with a various amount of equipment installed in them when it comes to the red lights, which is not active in these vehicles at all. And with the part of this program, we're focusing right now on the incident management vehicles, where there are 28 of them that have been identified where we're installing the upfit right now. And you can see some examples of the items that the equipment that they have installed in them, or we're working in that direction to get them in there. Next slide, please. So part of the smart lighting program is to create a response and a park mode. And I have some videos later on in the slides that'll show you what the response mode looks like and what the park mode looks like. And this covers both amber lighting and the red secondary lighting. And you can see the response mode has a higher flash cadence. Okay, you can go next slide. And here is what it looks like with the park mode enabled. You can see a slower flash pattern. Okay. I hope this stuff was helpful to you. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me or my team listed here. If you email us, please copy all of us on the email chain. And thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today.
Thank you, Jonathan, and sharing the latest and greatest of what's going on with smart emergency uh, vehicle lighting, smart emergency lighting, and talk about smart and one of the leaders in the country, I dare say. I'd like to introduce Master Sergeant Thomas Brengel from ISP, the Illinois State Police. Thomas began his law enforcement career in 2006, and he serves the Illinois State Police in their division of statewide 911. He has been integral to the legislative changes impacting Illinois' traffic laws, enhancing warning light systems on the state police vehicles, and developing the department's officer worn body camera program. He is also helping peers understand and adopt smart lighting practices. And with that, I want to welcome Master Sergeant Brengel.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Jim, for the compliment. That's quite nice of you. Just to apologize for any background noise. I'm actually on vacation here, so if there's some seagulls or something in the background, I apologize for any audio there. So I'm going to give a quick overview today of smart lighting, and then talk about what we've done here in Illinois and a little bit beyond. Smart lighting came to be with the work through Jim and the Federal Highway TIM team over the last couple years. We started a project back in 2019 at the state police district I worked at the time, had a different funding source. And we had suffered several fatalities in roadside incidents and looked at the warning lights in our vehicles and how we can make improvements on that. Next slide, please. So through some work, we realized that a lot of our lights create visual chaos when we're on scene, similar to what's pictured here. Right? We can all imagine a time when we're either the incident responder ourselves or happen to be off duty passing through an incident scene, especially at night. Multiple vehicles, even a single vehicle on scene, can quickly disorient us, overwhelm what we're trying to see and navigate through. Go ahead to the next slide. So we came up with an acronym called SMART, and a lot of people apply SMART, like Jonathan has covered in his previous presentations on advanced lighting systems, which I'll quickly cover. But SMART is really these five topics. It's a fusion of 5 different operational practices on emergency vehicle and roadside maintenance vehicles to improve our safety as not only the incident responder, but those at the incident scene and the general public as they traverse through our scenes. S being the strategy. Again, these are just an overview of what SMART means. So when you're developing your strategy, kind of like Jonathan had spoken about, looking at assessing within your agency what works for you guys now, what doesn't work so well, and what are you going to look to improve. I know for our agency, we really had to look at funding sources, deciding if we were going to retrofit existing vehicles or only apply advanced lighting systems into newer fleets. That's all stuff that needs to be considered, as well as what applicable laws do you have. Illinois, we're allowed certain color lighting on vehicles for police and fire compared to DOT. Illinois, we actually just allowed green lighting on DOT vehicles and tow vehicles as of January 1st this year. So strategy is kind of the beginning step to implementing smart lighting, but it's an important step, especially when it comes to funding and figuring out how you're going to apply that. If you're looking to do vehicle-to-vehicle sync capabilities, you got to talk with partner agencies that you want to do that with, because a lot of those systems and flash patterns can be proprietary and they can't communicate from different vendors yet. Message, that's probably the most important part of smart lighting, is what are we trying to convey to the motoring public with our lighting, right? Lighting typically alerts, informs, and manages. We do a pretty good job at alerting motorists, but we don't really do a great job with managing and telling motorists what we want to do with our lights. Jonathan had mentioned a really neat thing that they're doing, and I totally support, is that they have a response mode versus a park mode. You're starting to see that in advanced lighting systems where we're changing and toggling and controlling the flash patterns of our lights and being very intentional about what we're doing with those lights, depending on what our vehicles are doing. There's some research studies that are out there that support that type of methodology, where motorists typically will observe flashing lights of a very fast flash sequence as requesting right of way or demanding a sense of urgency, where slower flash rates, usually around 1 hertz or about 60 flashes per minute, convey a calmer message, and we want to calm the scene of our scenes through our lighting. Automatic, again, either using a smart lighting system or advanced lighting system where you can tie into the vehicle triggers and sensors, or even through basic lighting and wiring, trying to automate features as much as possible. You've seen that since the 90s with fire apparatus, how when they go on scene, they're not allowed to have wig-wag headlights on anymore. Trying to incorporate that more into our response vehicles. So when we're in response mode, maybe the system can tell we're driving, displays a certain pattern, we get on scene, go into park, a separate pattern is automatically displayed. We don't want to have to confuse the vehicle operator with having to toggle those features themselves. Reduce intensity, that's probably most important as message. We want to, especially at night, reduce the intensity of our lights, whether that's, again, through the flash sequencing and rate that they flash at, but more importantly, how bright lights are. We know that LEDs are the predominant thing in the market now. Those are very ultra bright lights. The types of rules that are out there and performance standards really still only apply to incandescent halogen bulbs. We haven't seen a migration with standards really keep up with LEDs. So at night, using things like a photocell to detect ambient light, reduce the output of how bright lights are. And then tier levels, Jonathan talked about that with placing lights across the vehicle, high, middle, and low. Next slide, please. You can skip through this. I've already covered that slide. So just a couple videos here to showcase some of this. Here at the end, I'll talk about implementation real quick here in Illinois. We went through again and had to do some proposals on our new vehicles. We're implementing advanced lighting systems. We chose not to retrofit our existing systems because that just wasn't economically feasible. We incorporated end user training so that the operators of our vehicles kind of understand what the system's doing and what the intent is behind it. Collaboration with other agencies. We're still trying to progress toward that. That's challenging, but trying to get on a similar system with DOT agency here in Illinois so that we can have vehicle-to-vehicle sync, I think is maybe a wish list, but we're not at that point yet. I know other agencies do that, and that's something that you need to consider with your initial approach to lighting. And then supporting research. You can go ahead and advance the next slide. There is research out there. I'll cover that in my conclusion slide on where to locate some of that. So I don't know if this video will show up, but we have kind of an old state police vehicle there on the left, and what we're training to on newer vehicles on the right. I know the videos probably don't play as well as we'd like, but just trying to show the difference and contrast of different lighting sequences here. So go ahead and advance to the next slide, please. This is an interesting thing. There's a study out there. We tried to replicate this. So especially in the TIM world, we talk about lighting and wearing our reflective vest. You'll see an operator of this police vehicle exit wearing a vest. It's still a little challenging to see him standing next to that when you've got lights, especially white light at night flashing. The car is, the lights are kind of just doing their own thing, full brightness intensity. If you can advance to the next slide, you'll see a really good contrast here with using an advanced lighting system. Try one more slide there. So this right at night, we've dimmed the brightness of our lights. We're sequencing our lights so that we have contrasting color pop from red and blue. The operator will get out still wearing a vest, but it's a lot more visible. And that's really what we're trying to demonstrate here with smart lighting. Using advanced lighting systems is improving our safety and visibility at scenes. We know we're still seen with our lights, but we're not overwhelming those that are trying to come through and travel through our scenes. Next slide, please. I know I'm running up on time here, so if you can just go to the conclusion slide, I'd like to highlight one thing in particular. A lot of the smart lighting stuff that I've talked about here, that's a good one. I've been very fortunate through the TIM program to go out and spread the word on this stuff. There's an article that was published back in May in the Police Chief magazine that talks in more detail about the SMART acronym. Been able to present at IACP recently on that, and there's a couple of other upcoming presentations. So word's getting out about what smart lighting is. And I think we all know that this is an important topic that needs to be addressed. And it's nice to see that it's finally getting some attention and getting implemented by folks like Jonathan. One more slide, please. I would like to give credit. I don't know if he's dialed in today or not. Dr. John Bullough has a lot of very meaningful research in this area. I think he's presented on these programs before, but his research complements the smart lighting stuff very well and shows the importance of using things like calming patterns, dimming lights, tiered lighting across your vehicle, automation. We talk about that conceptually here in smart lighting, but he has the research that can kind of help support that. So his information is there and my information's on the slide at the bottom if you ever have any questions about more about smart lighting, or I can show some of the other videos to you as well. But that's what I have here today for you. Appreciate it.
Master Sergeant Brengel, Thomas. I can't thank you enough, sir. That the presentations that you provide, and Jonathan's too, they never cease to amaze me, and I'm hopeful as well that, as you said, through ICP and articles and just in general, our audience take advantage of this. Every person here has the ability to influence their programs, I believe. And so you and Jonathan sharing this type of technology allows them, I hope, to and inspires them, quite frankly, to take advantage and try to continue to change the way lighting is included in our emergency response vehicles. Dr. Bullock, I'm so glad you presented his contact information. As you know, he's been a great influence in this in his own realm, and between you and him over the past year or more, you guys have done several presentations for us. And anyway, I can't thank you enough. It's very important. The lighting definitely affects motorists, especially at night, and being able to see the responder once they're out of a vehicle, makes it even better, in my opinion. So with that, we do have, or let me back up. I failed to mention earlier, if you have questions, you can put them in the Q&A box. Definitely sign in if you haven't, your name, agency, and title. But in the chat here, let me see here. Okay, thank you. What I'm going to do now is for Jonathan, I have a couple canned questions here for you, Jonathan, and then I'll give give one to the sergeant, to the master sergeant. First, for you, Jonathan, what is your timeline for deployment of the smart lighting for the 28 incident management vehicles and the 188 SSP fleet vehicles?
Well, currently we're working on just trying to get the first part of this going as far as the build side. We are very close to 50% on the IMC fleet for the agency side IMCs, and we have not moved forward or made any decisions to activate anything with the SSP trucks at this current moment. And I just want to put it out there that the VDOT and the TIM contractors, they lack the codified responder designation when it comes to sovereign immunities, and it cannot legally be delegated or assigned. So basically they well, it's well, that's about how it works. We haven't really moved forward. We're working on that piece of it. We haven't have not given a solid date yet to even go live with the red secondaries at all at this moment.
Okay, well, we'll stay in touch with you, get more information at a later point as well. I have another quick question for you. What challenges, if any, do you face in retrofitting the vehicles with the technology, the smart lighting technology?
It's a very based on the IMC fleet's a very diverse fleet. There's a whole bunch of different models of vehicles, and it's made it a real challenge to work through a vehicle that has already been upfitted before, having to chase down wiring and try to make sure everything works. And it's a lot easier to start out with a clean, brand new vehicle with nothing in it that's just completely upfitted from start to finish. So
Yeah,
that's been one of the biggest challenges.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And it makes perfect sense. Question for you, Thomas. You have been sharing the principles of smart lighting and its value through print, conferences, and one-on-one. What advice might you offer to an agency that's trying to bring smart lighting to its fleet?
It's a good question. I think the biggest impact that I've been able to see is bringing in a vehicle to showcase it, right? So, like, we can all talk about it, but we had that presentation we did up last year, right up in Chicago area, and we were able to get some administrators and end users there and showcase different vehicle setups. And the proof is in the pudding when you see it in person, when you can actually experience the different flash patterns, see the difference of a full power versus a low power light at night. See especially workers, right? If we simulated workers next to flashing lights, and you could say, hey, this actually makes sense to spend extra money on our new vehicles or retrofit existing vehicles to actually experience that in person. So if an agency is looking to do that, if you have an agency in the town next to you that's got a smart a vehicle with an advanced lighting system, having them come demo it to whoever's going to be paying the bills and making the decisions there to go with it. That's the first start, because once you see it, the light, if you will, clicks, and people see that it's worth the investment. And then from there, if you need the extra help with research studies to show why this is actually there's actually been science done on it that supports the smart lighting acronym. That just so happened to be that we knew that Bulla was out there doing that type of stuff that supports it. Because sometimes agencies like to see, well, where's the science behind it, or is this true? And his car looks neat. Well, there's actually studies that show that. So that's a great place to start to move forward in the smart lighting realm.
Absolutely. You nailed it. I mean, the buy-in from the decision makers to see it, feel it, touch it, and so on. That is so important. And it may sound like a no-brainer, but you need to, as I said earlier, as an influencer and leaders that I believe everyone on this webinar are or is, we need to share this data, share this information, and of course, you have all of us, Master Sergeant Brengel and Jonathan in my office and Dr. Bullock now. You have the resources to try to make a difference with lighting in your state, your jurisdiction, your agency, etc. So thank you again to Jonathan Meeks with VDOT and Master Sergeant Thomas Brengel with Illinois State Police. Next slide, we have Dwayne Day, who's going to present on UAS, unmanned aerial systems from the state of Delaware. Dwayne, let me get back up here to your bio, Dwayne. I must share that Dwayne has served as the Delaware DOT UAS program manager since its inception in 2016. He represents the state in all matters concerning Homeland Security and emergency management with other state and federal agencies as well. He also serves as on the management team that oversees Delaware DOT's Traffic Management Center. Dwayne joined DelDOT after a 20-year career with the U.S. Air Force, and I'm sure we all thank Dwayne for that service as well. So with that, welcome, Dwayne.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to speak on our program here, working through with the TIM. What we did here, when we first started looking at this, we were intrigued by other states across the nation using drones during fatal accidents, where a typical fatal accident in our state, like most states, has a closure of about 4 hours. But utilizing a drone, they were reducing that closure time to about 75% to about an hour, hour and a half. So that is why we jumped into this, and we wanted to implement drones into our state police crash reconstruction units. Next. So basically, when we first started out, this was kind of went on this, but we initially formed a committee with not only members from DelDOT, but we looked at our state police and we looked at our local law enforcement, primarily the city of Dover. Because up to this point, we were, as DelDOT, were flying most of their fatal accidents and capturing the images for them. So we wanted to help them progress into institutionalizing drones into their programs. Next. So what we did, unfortunately, let me back up. Unfortunately, the local law enforcement agencies dropped out. They were having some funding issues even before we even got even start as far as purchasing drones for the future. So we started out with 13 DSP troopers. They studied and they received their FAA 107 license. And then they came to DelDOT, and we have a pretty robust program. So we trained them, those state troopers, just like we train our DelDOT employees. Opened up some training records, created one for each of the troopers. Then we trained them on 12 different maneuvers. And as typically as we do our own people, we gave them a check ride at the end, signing them off. Basically everything that we do to support our folks, we did for the state police. Next. Since we didn't have any experience in this type of flying, and we knew Maryland right next door to us we reached out to their crash reconstruction unit. They were more than willing to help us and mentor the state police in developing that program. So we relied heavily on them initially to give us the information, bring us up to speed on how we should approach this. We couldn't thank them enough. We had virtual calls through Teams. They actually drove over a couple of them and went to a couple of the troops and sat down and gave them hands-on training, showed them how to fly. Unfortunately, they fly the Alto Evo 2 drones, and our folks, we train on DJI, so we wanted to mimic that program. So anything we had any concerns, we would be able to reach back and just a phone call and they would be able to help us out using the same type of drone. So that is why we switched over with the state police crew teams to the Altels. Next. Drone procurement was one of the issues, and that's why, like I said, the locals had to drop out. But we did get, or able to have the DSP purchase 6 drones using their sleeve funds that law enforcement sees law enforcement asset funds, which they were able to do. Unfortunately, that equated to just 1 drone for each 2 crew troopers. So we really knew that to be successful, we needed to have a drone in each one of the crew members, because we didn't know when they were going to be called out, and they don't travel in pairs. So we basically need to find another way to purchase 6 more. So as DelDOT, we thought this program was very valuable. Obviously, getting the road cleared, secondary accidents, our folks out on the roads, getting them off the roads along with the troopers was very important. So we were able to purchase the other 6 drones, so that each of their crew members does have and carries their own drone. Next. Pix 4D Mapper was the software at the time that they were using and needed to use to help process the scenes. It's very expensive according to the budget we had at the time. So we actually purchased 3 training licenses through the Homeland Security Grant Program. So training and exercise committee there worked out real well. But we still didn't know how to use the software. So I reached out to Sundance Media Group. They brought in a class, a 3-day training course on how to use Pix 4D. It was fairly basic, but it did give them a foundation to start with. And none of those troopers had ever flown at night. So while Sundance Media Group was here, we asked them to also give a night flying course. Next. So we wanted a way to validate, is this actually going to work? Where are we going to be able to cut, our closure times, 75%? So we worked with the State Fire School. They hosted a TIM course. We had 75 DelDOT personnel attend this class. After the first 4 hours in the morning, after lunch, we had a mock scenario set up where the students can actually come out, touch, feel, see how a scene should be set up. But for our purposes, we were going to validate the crew teams and how they responded. So 2 teams were called out, and one was going to be flying a drone, and one was going to do the typical Faro system. And basically, when they showed up, they didn't know what was going on. I mean, they knew they were going to do an exercise. They didn't know or hadn't had a chance to see the scene. And they actually did very well. The scene was processed in about an hour and a half while the Faro was still going on. So it did validate what we were trying to do, and that it was going to work. And we appreciate Maryland State Police coming over to be the evaluators of that as subject matter experts. Next. And that's kind of the Reader's Digest version of how we institutionalize drones in Delaware State Police.
Dwayne, thank you. Very good information, and I love and it underscores the importance of working with your partners, as you said, with Maryland DOT, Maryland SHA, who's been working in that space and help you build your program, which is, I dare say, a leader program now. And thank you again for sharing the presentations. Again, if anybody has anything, question you want or comment you want to make, put it in the Q&A or the chat pod. We will have questions for each one of our presenters on UAS. Next slide. And next up is Adam's Adam Perez, who's also going to present on UAS or drones. We're not allowed to say drone in the federal realm. They told us years ago. So we have to say UAS or UAV. But regardless, Adam is going to present on tethered drones, which is really cool. Adam is he's going to present on UAS technology for Tim, and how he was able to attain funding through the State Transportation Innovation Council grant, the STIC grant. You see that acronym there for those of you don't know, which is quite impressive. And I also say STIC funds, if many of you that are here may or may not know, are still available every year up to $125,000. May not sound like a lot of money, but you're eligible for that every year up to that amount. It's possible, I did hear through the grapevine, that it may be being increased again. But anyway, besides that, Adam is an expert and involved in incident response, detour management, the use of drones to do search and rescue, thermal imaging. The technology with UAVs is incredible nowadays. That thermal imaging piece is really cool, especially for nighttime operations. And he's also going to talk about preliminary findings, sharing results and lessons learned, documentation. Let me back up here. Adam is the freeway operations manager for the TMC, or Traffic Operations Division, for Tennessee DOT headquarters. He's worked there since 2001, overseeing the incident management program, and he has a small staff that helps with programmatic oversight of the Safety Service Patrol and TMC operations on a statewide level. I apologize for reading out questions instead of Adam's bio, but chalk that up to my senior citizen status, Adam. But anyway, the floor is yours, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it. Yeah, like Jim said, we're going to talk about our, I'll say UAV instead of drone. I'll say UAV technology here in Tennessee. We are in a pilot mode. We were able to get this grant, like Jim was talking about, a little less than a year ago. And so we put this pilot into effect across our state traffic incident management program. That's what my presentation is going to be about today. Next slide, please. Okay, so we did apply for the STIC grant. TISMO manager called a meeting with some of us here in operations and design, and we're talking about what potential uses for the STIC grant, could we come up with if we were awarded. And of course, we landed on UAV technology for enhanced TEM, next generation TEM, right? So part of that, what we considered was real-time situational awareness in these areas where we don't have CCTV, standardized use of these unmanned UAVs across the state, and then cost effectiveness as well, right? So like when you get out into the urban areas and you don't have your ITS assets out quite that far, this is a good way to get video back to the TMC and other folks that need to see it. All right, next slide, please. Some of our objectives were, like I said, to get these issued across our state. We have 4 regions across state, and Also to integrate the video that the drones gave back to our transportation management centers. Provide like standardized operator training for our 4 regions. And hopefully what we were wanting to do is to improve incident detection, our clearance times, monitor our detours on these large events, and just the overall effectiveness for our TIM program, just to get an idea on how well these fit into our TIM. The total cost of our project was $156,000. Of course, we took our stick federal funds of $125,000, added our state funds to make up the difference. With the funding, we were able to cover a drone for every one of our 4 regions, and then operator training for all of our staff. And then we were able to deploy, and now we're in the evaluation phase. So next slide. 5 of 6 tasks so far completed. These are still underway. Like I said, we're in a pilot program. Task 1 was to acquire the UAVs, which was done early on. Identify and train the regional users. That wasn't a very difficult task for us. We had users across the regions that were more than willing to participate in the program. Figure out a few performance metrics, ways that we could collect data as we deploy these, and how we're using them. Integrate these into the TMC. This is something that's still ongoing. There are some IT difficulties getting video into the TMC through firewalls and IT protocols. Wasn't as easy a task as what we thought. That's still in progress. But initial evaluation, get some performance feedback on, when we deploy these and how we use it. And of course, document these results and determine if this is something that we want to use in our TIM program ongoing. Is it beneficial? Is there other use case scenarios that we come up with that might, we could include by purchasing more of these? So we have reported to the Federal Highway Administration. We've given 2 progress reports, and of course, there's a final report. Next slide, please. Some of the highlights of our program during the first 2.5 months. UAVs were deployed 2 to 10 times per region, just depending on the region. We were able to get those up in the air quite often. Big incidents primarily is what we were using them for. We did use them for a few special event monitoring and some construction planning. We wanted to focus on rural interstates, where we don't have our CCTV coverage. We work with our aeronautics division to provide the training to our operators and to give us guidance for these. We specifically went with a tethered drone. We used the photo kite tethered drone because we didn't want a lot of involvement for our operators. We wanted them to be freed up to do the on-scene active incident management. Just allow this thing to fly, not worry about it. So, and also being in a pilot program, we didn't want to go for that full 107B license, right? So just throughout the implementation process, we found that we could only use these for incident management if we weren't going to acquire that full license. So the special event monitoring, construction planning, stuff like that had to go away, and we had to stick with just incident management. Next slide, please. So the impact for our project, and here's a few pictures you can see. There's, like Jim was saying, there's thermal imaging, a little bit of night view, how that looks. Incident response, real-time visibility for these crashes. Detour management, they go 150 feet up in the air. It gives us a really wide view of the incident. You can see if the detour is working and where the pinch points are. That helps the responders on the scene get information back on who needs to be at which intersections to help keep traffic moving. Infrastructure planning, we did some initially when we put these out just to kind of see like some positioning of CCTV deployments, what that would look like. The law enforcement, when they saw what capabilities we had with these, determined that these would be great for search and rescue. So like the thermal imaging that you see, like shows those spots where you could potentially find somebody you wouldn't find ordinarily, low light, dark type conditions. And the thermal, of course, was useful for vehicle fires as well. Next slide, please. These are some of the things that we've learned, lessons learned, and a few challenges. Challenges were intermittent drop of the feed. We worked with the company to come out and help us with that. We initially found out that we did have to restart these drones after some time. Not in every case, but when you did have that drop, restart would simply take care of it. The tablet that comes with the drones has a battery, and that battery is limited, right? So we got a few backup batteries to give that operator a view of what's going on, and then they can put that on their charger and swap batteries out and be out there for as long as that incident lasts. And they work off a GPS cell signal, right? So in remote areas, there can be a challenge with those where you have low coverage areas are difficult to deploy the drone in. Generator dependency, if you don't have generators on your safety service patrol or help trucks or wherever you're deploying these, then you got to have an inverter. So not all of our trucks were outfitted with proper inverter to run these things. So we had to deploy a few of those or use generator as needed. And then again, the FAA restrictions just allowed us to limit usage to incident response. Next step is we want to incorporate this into our ATMS, have this work in our TMCs, especially if this is something that we're going to move forward with. Early indications, we do like the technology and we see it being a good fit in our TIM program. So can we get that integrated with our ATMS? Allow for better usage of it. Continue with those inverter installations. Expand coverage of our UAVs. We only have 4. We have 3 shifts of safety service patrol in every one of our regions, 4 regions. So there's 12 shifts out there that would need it. We currently have 4, but that would expand our coverage. We can get more drones and put them out in the field. Standardize our operating procedures. We've got enough lessons learned now where we can standardize how these things are deployed and when we will and won't want to use them. And then, of course, document all of the lessons learned and turn in our information for our final report. Next slide, please. Here's my information, contact info. If you guys have any questions, you want to call, text, or email me, anything on these. We are still in a learning mode, pilot mode. We've found some good uses for these things and feel like they'll be a good fit for us too. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Excellent presentation, and interesting the point you made about the pushback on planned special events and construction, the usage of UAVs for planned special events, which is actually a type of incident. Some big, some small, but also in construction zones. So, if anyone has any other experience with that and wants to share that, please do so in the chat pod or Q&A. Before I go to some of the questions in the chat pod, I am going to go to our next presenter, which is Paul Yamashita. Paul has served multiple traffic branches in various positions over his 25 plus years at the California Department of Transportation, or better known as Caltrans, at least in my book, as the current District 6 Maintenance and Operations UAS lead. He recruits and trains new pilots, researches new UAS technology, and expands the value of UAS for the agency. He is also a certified pilot and has flown 70 plus missions. And with that, Paul, welcome.
Thank you, Jim. So you were talking about a planned event, so that goes really well with my presentation. Hello, everyone. I'm here to talk about our presentation of the Caltrans Great Shakeout using unmanned aerial vehicle for this event. Next slide, please. Thank you. So how we got here was we had an unscheduled event in January of 24 where we had a fog event where it reduced visibility to less than 100 feet. That caused a number of individualized collisions involving a total of 35 vehicles, of which 18 were big rigs and 17 were passenger vehicles, and resulted in two fatalities and closed our southbound Interstate 5 for over 24 hours. Because we were able to live stream this event using the photokite to our TMC, as well as our headquarters communication and our senior management, we were then tasked for this event. So this is an annual scheduled exercise. It's called the Caltrans Great Shakeout. So October of last year, when we held our shakeout, it's an earthquake exercise. So it's a communication exercise where we activate our emergency operations centers throughout our 12 Caltrans districts, as well as our TMCs, to our headquarters EOC. The exercise is based on a fictitious 7.5 or greater magnitude earthquake that happened somewhere within the state. Last year's event was in my district in the south central part of California. So what we do in our district is then perform mock structural inspections to look for earthquake damage to verify that the structures can remain open. This exercise brings together multiple agencies as well as multiple different departments within Caltrans. The exercise is then observed by our by the California OES as well as US DOT. This last year's exercise was also to help look at different ways to communicate. So we implemented the Microsoft Teams as a way to internally communicate without always having to be online somewhere. Next slide, please. So we went ahead and used the photokite. The photokite does live stream when you go ahead and purchase it, but it uses a cellular connection. So what we were tasked to do is connect it to a Starlink satellite unit. That way, we anticipate that during some sort of major event, that either the cell service is going to be down or at capacity, therefore making it difficult to communicate. We went ahead and flew the photokite for 2 continuous hours. We then live streamed it to the 12 EOCs and TMCs statewide, as well as headquarters communication and headquarters EOC. We believe we're the first DOT to live stream such an event statewide. We had a maximum of 38 viewers with 25 continuous viewers during the entire 2 hours. It wasn't available at this time, but photokite has recently added a remote control feature, which means if we broadcast a different link, our actual TMC can then remote pilot the drone. So they can actually change the altitude, the direction of the photokite, and also take care of the zoom or the thermal. Next slide, please. So this is a couple of pictures of us in the field with my team. The picture on the left is showing the Starlink unit that our headquarters EOC communications brought down for the test. Next slide, please. So photokite to live stream gives you a link. It's livephotokite.com, and then the changes is dependent on the photokite unit, and then it offers a password. The password can either be static, therefore the TMC doesn't always have to enter it, or it can generate a new one. The other advantage is that photokite does offer a QR code for a quicker way to look up what the link is. Next slide, please. So these are some images of our live stream that they captured inside our TMC. The picture on the right shows part of the mock inspection that we did on the structure, where we were able to zoom in and move the photokite around. Then I was notified by headquarters via Microsoft Teams that we were, quote, the structures were unsafe, and then we were then tasked to go ahead and elevate the drone so we can monitor the traffic that is traveling on Interstate 5, and then would have to exit off and then come back on since the structures themselves were unsafe. Next slide, please. So these are the achievements that we had resulted from the exercise. We went ahead and actually recorded the live stream as well for future review and support, as well as possible training. The team that was out in the field with me, we did document how the photokite worked. At that time, we had some issues with remote ID broadcasting, but that has since been resolved. We did live stream to not just our District 6 TMC using the Starlink, but we did broadcast to all 12 EOCs and TMCs, as well as headquarters. In anticipation of the event, I contacted photokite to find out how they can monitor our live stream activity. They have a maximum number of viewers of 50, so they were able to capture that that data that I previously stated on, that we had 38 at a peak. Next slide, please. And that is my contact information. We've been using the photokite for over 2 years, so if anyone has any questions, please feel free to contact me. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Excellent presentation. Great to hear from Caltrans, the great things you're doing out there for sure. And let's go to, before we go to Dom in the great state of North Carolina, there's some questions here. Again, I'll start with Dwayne Day. And I apologize to ask that you be as quick as possible. Dwayne, for you, question. Great to see DelDOT working to dramatically shorten the timeline for fatal crashes using drone technology. How long was the journey from funding to beginning on scene use?
Actually, about a year. As far as, you know, when we set everything up and had our initial meetings, we were actually probably training people within 5-6 months, and then probably 9 months to a year, we had our actually our validated exercise at the end of July.
Okay, and what were some of the more challenging hurdles to overcome?
I think the biggest hurdle, and if you're going to do something of this nature, is the purchase of the drones, because you know the best drone that we could find, the best quality that at the time, and it still is the DJI, and the DJI, and the second, the Altel. Both are Chinese-made drones, and you can't purchase Chinese-made drones with federal funds. So that's why we had to be creative as far as going out and finding funding streams to buy those drones. I think the other one is obviously the buy-in from the crew members. You know, if they've never flown a drone, and some of them were just not as, I guess, forthcoming as wanting to participate in the program. But as far as now, they're really appreciative. They really like it, and it is saving them a whole lot of time out in the field.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you for that. I am going to jump, if you guys don't mind, to our final presenter, and then we'll go back to the Q&A for this session. And he is Dominic Ciaramitaro. We know him as Dom, and Dom works for the North Carolina DOT as the State Traffic Systems Operations Engineer. He leads 3 groups: the Traffic Operations, which is responsible for freeway operations and its functions of incident management, traffic management centers, traveler information, and ITS operations. The second is the Signal System Timing and Operations Group, which is responsible for arterial operations. And thirdly, the Transportation Systems Management and Operations Planning Group, better known nationally now, TSMO programs, which a lot of you have involvement as well. Dom's section has piloted technology supporting a variety of everyday accounts initiatives, including emergency vehicle alerts, debris removal tools, synchronized lighting, and applicable, and which are applicable today. And he is going to talk again, our second presenter, on tethered drones. With that, welcome, Dom.
Thanks, Jim. And sorry for using the term tethered, but I'm going to keep using it. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. So
it was drone that it's not tethered. That's the problem for us at Federal Highway. You can do whatever you want.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. You hit the next slide, please. I do want to thank Paul. I'm probably going to reach out to you with regard to your photokite tips, especially with regard to the remote operating, because I know that beyond line of sight, piece from the federal FAA that recently came out talking about beyond line of sight. I'd be interested to get your feedback. Well, I'll reach out to you later.
Great.
So, like Adam talked, we use stick grant as well to fund our tethered drone program a few years back. We bought a couple drones with them. With photokite was one of them. And then we did a low bid through Drone Supply. We got a Mavic 2 with a V-line tether. Not really the preferred solution, barely ever got used, but the photokite is what we're going to focus on today. Same reasons, high loader time, minimal operations, 150-foot AGL is really good to see traffic and to manage queues, and then being able to push that into the TMC has been one of the big reasons why we went with the tethered drone. The other part of it too is that we had a really good collaboration with the Division of Aviation. They helped us a lot with regard to training, testing, coming up with different techniques and tactics and how to use it. So they were very helpful throughout the entire process, mainly because they had the plug-in with FAA. Next slide, please. So the use cases were very similar to what Adam has already discussed. Where there's limited CCTV coverage, we're focusing on interstate incidents, especially where we don't have those cameras. We were deploying these via the supervisor would take them out to be able to deploy versus giving them to every driver. Basically, making it a regional kind of deployment as well. And the other point I do want to make on this one is that we did come up with some checklists that if you guys were ever looking to, before putting your drone in operation, either like a Mavic kind of drone or with the photokite, we had specific checklists. And again, one of the reasons why we didn't like the Mavic was the checklist was a lot longer and more complex because of the different pieces and parts. It wasn't an integrated system. It was more of a Frankenstein kind of system. But the photokite was very easy to implement and to keep it maintained. And go ahead, next slide. So what I really want to focus on is our use case that we recently had about a year ago, and this was to support a tropical storm. So that storm, hit around August timeframe last year, brought typical amount of rain with the tropical storm, between 10 to 15 inches of rain. They dropped on that corridor where I-95 goes north and south of North Carolina, between South Carolina and Virginia. And with that storm came a lot of flash flooding and river flooding potential that came with it. Hit the next slide, please. So that little map you saw from National Weather Center, where you look at the amount of precipitation that we got in those different locations, what that equates to, is hit the next animation, is that many road closures. It was about 238 road closures that happened over the course of 3 days. And, that's, again, a typical tropical storm can have an impact as it comes through North Carolina. And we have to manage the traffic as they go around. We have to provide the detours, provide messaging, provide a lot of different things in order to keep motorists moving and help the emergency responders going into those impacted areas. Hit the next one. So like Adam mentioned, your problem is rural areas where you don't have a lot of devices. The picture on the left is, I'll get that one in a second. The picture on the right is, you can see the little squares above and below the red circle. Those are our overhead message boards. It's hard to see, but up in the top left and the bottom right of that circle, you can see some of those little blue cameras. And then that red circle has nothing inside of it. So basically we have no message boards and we have no cameras in that rural corridor. And it's a 4-lane, full control access freeway. So the other part to it is we've recently developed a fantastic relationship with hydraulics, which is one of the units we have in our department. And they do a lot of flood monitoring and predictions and forecasting with regard to impacts to the storms, either through surge or through rainfall or through river flooding. So with this specific area where we had no devices, they did have some devices. They had devices on bridges and they had devices that were monitoring the flooding that was happening in the nearby swamps. Go ahead, next slide. So this is their tool. Is they have a couple different things. They have something called Bridge Watch. They have something called Fireman T. The pictures that you can see are the actual the flood gauges that they were using that were predicting the water as it was coming. And then the yellow, red, and purple lines are the important lines that you're looking at. So as that water line starts to go up, hits a couple different levels of those bridges. That first line is it's freeboard. It means you're getting kind of close to the steel on the bridge, but you're not quite there yet. The red line is you're touching steel. It's the bottom of the steel, but you're touching steel. And that purple line is overtopping of a road. So when you're talking about overtopping a full control access freeway, you got some problems. And when we're looking at this flooding, some of the predictions were showing that it was getting closer to overtopping. And we were monitoring this very closely because as soon as you have flooding on a freeway, you can have some serious crashes if you're not, shutting things down or doing the right things. You can go from, failure of the bridge to, vehicles crashing because of the water on the overtop structure. Go ahead, next one. Go ahead and click the animation on the drone. Yeah. So what we ended up doing was we deployed our Tethered drone. This is one of our use cases that we ended up having to be able to monitor specific things that were happening. So that was the river that you saw where that red circle was, and where it was actually at that red line. So using the Tethered drone, we were able to validate that the flood gauges were correct, that the bridge gauges were correct, that the water was at the low chord of the touching steel on that bridge. And then that little truck you see on the right, that was a maintenance guy he was watching as well, and he was calling his supervisor, telling him, hey, listen, the water's here. And we were able to show the hydraulics folks that here's what the river is looking like that's going through the structure. And we were able to make determinations from the office about this specific event and what we should do with these bridges. So an IMAP driver, which is our Safety Service Patrol, he drove out there and he deployed the drone and was able to provide that image back via the typical QR code to us. And we shared that QR code. At the same time, we were doing a border transportation meeting, and it was their highways meeting. They put this up on the screen so all of the division engineers and chief engineers and the different folks could see what was happening with this storm. Because of what we did, go ahead, click one slide or one animation. Because of this, that the chief and division of the division of aviation and a lot of different folks saw the impact of what the drone was able to do and provide, and to give us indication of whether or not that bridge was in peril. They decided we need to get more of these things out in the field in more locations. So they've given us funding now to purchase additional drones, up to like $300,000 worth of these Tethered drones to put out into more of the regions, so we can help support better support during these storms. So the other thing that we were doing, our TMCs were actively planning a detour in case this did overtop. And luckily it didn't overtop, and we didn't have those impacts to the bridge that we were expecting. But the bottom line is, where you look at Tethered drones that support incidents or support special events, this is the impact that it was able to provide our folks in the field. They were able to evaluate these things prior to it actually failing in the field. So that's all I got. And I'm standing by for any questions if you have any. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Dom. I mean, what can I say? It's obvious the benefits of these types of systems and why they're very much still gaining momentum across the country for all the uses that you pointed out, and other law enforcement and all the rest of it. So excellent presentation. I know we only have 5 minutes left. I wanted to real quickly for those, let's see here. I just put in the chat pod the name of a colleague of mine at Federal Highway, James Gray. If you don't know James Gray, he is Mr. UAS, Mr. UAV at the Federal Highway Administration. You can blame me if he says anything for being inundated, but by emails, phone numbers I don't have, but James Gray is the go-to guy for all things UAS, UAV, or if you choose drones. So he really is an incredible resource for all of those that are with us today, which I see there's still 129. And anyway, I thought it'd be worthwhile to share his email with you. So I'll go to one more question and then we'll say our farewell for this month's webinar. Quick question for Adam has moved on. So this question is for Paul Yamashita. Can you share how Caltrans uses these drones more routinely for Tim?
So we don't have a set standard operating procedure to deploy the drones. We have 3 now within the state. Like I said, they are cellular based automatically, so it can live stream. But we had a number of lithium ion fires that we were told that this would have been very helpful, because in the areas that the fires were at, we do not have any kind of CCTV camera or communication. So now that we know that they work with Starlink, I'm hoping to get a mobile Starlink unit to test it out in remote areas where there is no cellular coverage. We don't use the drones so much for traffic queuing, as Caltrans has what's called Quick Map, which will show us what the queuing looks like. Ours is mainly more for, like you were talking about, Jim, is the TIM side, as to where is the incident, what lanes are blocked, and at that time, where are we as far as in the clearance? How close are we, or things like that. That's how we're deploying it.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Question for Dom. How has training on the use of tethered drone gone? Any tips or lessons learned?
Yeah, the biggest tip is stay away from those Part 107, 108 certifications. If you don't want to, redirect your folks from learning, both their skill set in the Safety Service Patrol as well as trying to maintain their certification. That's why we went with the tethered drone, and that's why we used aviation to really help us out with regard to crafting what those need to be. So once we wrote those checklists down and how to operate it, it became very easy to operate that photokite. The Mavic became very problematic and people couldn't figure it out. They couldn't figure out how to share, where you're trying to use Teams to use it. So that one kind of sat in the closet, not knowing anything, but the photokite is what really shined, is because it required very little training. It was, you press your button, it goes up in the air, you connect with the iPad, and then you're flying and you're good to go. And they can walk away and work on the incident. So with regard to training, when you're not doing the Part 107 and Part 108 certifications, stick with what's easy. That's why the tethered system worked for us, specifically the fully integrated photokite system.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you for sharing that. And last question, back to Dwayne real quick. Dwayne, what is the sentiment from state police?
Actually, they like it. At first it was like, they could take it or leave it. But just in the past week, I've talked to a couple of the crew guys and their program manager. They are pleased. They are cutting their time out on the road significantly. I don't have the data that supports that, as far as, it's probably going to take at least probably another year. But talking to the crew members, it is successful and they're happy to use it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And the point about the data, however you say it, it's important for this technology and all the technologies under the Everyday Count 7 program that we engaged in, whether it be debris removal systems or advanced warning, UAS, emergency vehicle preemption, the smart emergency vehicle lighting, etc. Please continue to collect and capture the data, because we will revisit these later on in the coming years. So next slide. I'd like to, Kyla, next slide. Okay, these 10 resources are available to you all. I won't read them all to you. Just take advantage of them. The recording of this webinar will be available through the NOCO website within the next week or less, I'm pretty sure. And I'd like to thank our presenters, all 6 of our presenters, Captain, I just promoted you, Thomas. Master Sergeant Thomas Brengel from ISP, Jonathan Meeks from VDOT, of course, Dom Ciaramitaro, Paul Yamashita, and Dwayne Day, as well as Adam Perez. All of you, many thanks. And we shall see you next month. Keep doing great things, as I always like to say. God bless and bye for now.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.